teaching the next generation of our next generation to say, hey, we want to occupy here, and that's why, in a sense, we're not winning.
Right.
So
Well, the way I phrase it to sort of demonstrate kingdom leadership in the form of a question is if heaven invaded earth tomorrow, like if you read all the way to the end of Revelation, here's what happens. It says everything in heaven comes down to the earth. So at the end of the day, nobody's in heaven.
Yeah.
Everything in heaven is merging with the earth, and there's a new city and a new Jerusalem, and the idea is we were meant to live here, and we get to live here in a way God intended.
Yeah.
And so if that happened tomorrow, would you like it? If heaven invaded earth tomorrow, what parts of you would thrive?
Wow.
And what parts of you would be burned off of you?
Wow.
One of the things I was challenged to do is go back and reread everything Jesus ever said about heaven and ask yourself, would you like it? Like Jesus said, heaven is eating at a table with every tribe, tongue, and race.
Yeah.
What if you're racist? And so the idea isn't, if you're racist, the idea isn't, well, wait to go to heaven, you'll suddenly not be a racist. That's not Jesus' goal for you. Jesus' goal is, here's what heaven looks like. Go ahead and align your life up with heaven now. Don't wait to go to heaven to experience heaven.
Right.
Go ahead and line your life up with the kingdom of heaven now, so that when you wake up in heaven, because death doesn't win, you don't get whiplash.
Yeah.
You don't get. You're not so surprised by the thing, and that's how Jesus framed his message was if heaven was here, would you like it? Would you be ready? Would you where does your life where would your life thrive? Or the other side of it, and this would be true of all of us, is what parts of your life would still need to be pruned off? Would still need to be. The English translates that word judgment. The Hebrew and the Greek word there is to prune.
Yeah.
Jesus uses the imagery of a vine dresser and someone who prunes. I love you and I forgive you, but that greed can't be here, and that racism can't be here, and it's that sort of idea.
Yeah. Wow, that's awesome. So I find out the more I study about kingdom, there's actually a part of me that gets offended. Like a lot of the things that I grew up with actually makes me mad because that is so against everything I grew up with. But now I'm having to go back and retraining. I'm looking back at things and going, oh my gosh, that's absolutely right. And so, Shane, for our viewers here, we have not only just leaders, we have business leaders, we have church leaders, we have organizational leaders. Obviously, Shane, with the clinical psychology, the master's degree, you're the leader of your own nonprofit organization. So for somebody who's watching this, what are maybe some practical keys? You have a phenomenal teaching on what you call state-of-the-heart leadership. What are like one or two practical things that somebody could take from this video and implement to see maybe some change in what they're wanting to see?
A couple of things that's very important. As leaders, we all at times get frustrated with the people we're leading, and we don't want them to know that. But the truth is that a lot of times that comes down to people just not getting it. So you're like, and you go back to your office or your bed or whatever, and you're like, what in the world am I doing that is causing people just to not get the bigger picture? And if I was to dumb it down into two thoughts, because for a function like this where people will be watching it via video, and we need to make it pithy and succinct. And so I would say this, that as a leader, regularly step back and ask yourself this question. What are the questions I'm asking? And what are the stories I'm telling? If you're trying to lead with statements, it's just not an effective way to lead. For instance, if you're a pastor and you want your people to be generous, to say, you need to be generous, statement. To say, you ought not to be greedy, statement. But to lead with questions, are you generous? What have you done in the last 30 days for someone who can't do anything in return for you? The questions you ask and the stories you tell reveal and reinforce the values that you're trying to communicate. People will never get statements, but a repetitive question reveals values, and a repetitive question reinforces those values. A repeated story reveals the value
Mm-hmm.
and reinforces the value. If you're a ministry leader and you want people in small groups,
Mm-hmm.
you need to be in a small group. Not the most effective way to do it.
Right.
Asking a question on a regular basis and come up with 4 different ways to ask the same question. Are you in a small group? Have you heard about our small groups?
Yeah.
Have you heard about the things that happen in our small groups? And then regularly include a video testimony of someone whose life was changed at the small group. The question you ask and the story you tell
Yeah.
reveals the value and reinforces the value. Here's the problem. The problem is when our questions and our stories don't mix or don't match with the statements we're making.
Mm-hmm.
So if we say, did you know how much Jesus loves you? But then in our statements, it sounds like if you don't do what he says, he gets you.
Yeah.
The question we're asking, the story we're telling, and the statement we're making don't mix up.
Yeah.
People get anxious.
Yeah.
To bring it down to a personal level, if your child is nervous about a test,
Mm-hmm.
and you say, you're trying to comfort him because you see that he's doing his best. It's not like he's being lazy, waited till the last minute.
Yeah.
You have seen this child put some effort in this thing.
Sure.
So as a good parent, you want to give him comfort. And you say, come on, buddy. Hey, come on. Hey, just all I want you to do is do your best. That's a statement. Okay?
Yeah.
If the kid goes to school the next day and you pick him up from school and the question you ask equals that statement. So the question would be, did you do your best? If the question you asked and the statement you made is the same, then you're saying this, you're revealing and reinforcing the same value.
Yeah.
But if the statement you make and the question you ask are different, so if you ask, what grade did you make? Well, you told him all you want him to do is do his best.
Yeah.
But the question is results oriented.
Yeah.
What happens is the revealed value and the reinforced value are different, and that causes anxiety.
Yeah.
And so that same principle is true in your organization. Is what I would do if I were you as leaders, if you're leading a business or a church or a ministry or whatever I do, here's what I do. I would sit down with my core people and I would decide what are my 5 biggest values. And then around those 5 biggest values, I would come up with 4 different questions that reveal those values, and then strategically come up with a way to integrate those questions into your day-to-day operation, or if it's a church, your week-to-week services. And then I would come up with a way to integrate on a regular basis stories and testimonies of employees or church members or whatever the case may be that not only reveal that value, but also reinforce the value.
Yeah.
And if you can reveal values and reinforce values in a consistent way while keeping the environment of your organization conducive to forward momentum, then you're going to win.
Wow. Yeah, absolutely. That's awesome. That's really awesome. And in clarity, it's clarity all through the organization. I'm a big fan of Walt Disney, and so I read a lot of his leadership materials, things like that. And so he was constantly making the vision. He was constantly to all the we calls his cast members.
Yep.
His employees are cast members, not employees, the cast members. He's constantly reinforcing, making clear the vision of Disney World, Disneyland is supposed to be a family, fun, keep it clean, and keep it fresh.
Yeah, and that's a very succinct way of saying his vision, and the person in the parking lot parking cars could have said that.
Yep.
And that's a critical thing. I mean, because the truth is that Andy Stanley makes this great observation in his book Visioneering, and here's what he says. He says, when an organization gets out of alignment, it takes more energy to go less distance.
That's right.
And 2 things cause that: time and bumps. And here's what happens: is as leaders, we get terrified that we're pounding our vision too much. Like we live with this fear that if I say this again, they're going to think I have nothing else to say.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, exactly.
And so exactly. I cannot say this again because if I do, then they're going to think I don't have anything else to say. We live with the myth that they actually get it. But they don't.
Right.
They don't. And 2 things cause them not getting it. And none of it is their bad.
Yeah.
One is time. Just sheer time causes a vehicle to go out of alignment.
Yeah.
And the other one is bumps.
Yeah.
When something happens that sort of bumps the organization, that is the critical moment to get back in and cast your vision. And the way you cast your vision is you say it, but then you reinforce it and reveal it with questions and stories.
Wow.
Questions and stories, questions and stories, questions and
Wow.
stories. The questions you ask and the stories you tell become the marching orders for your whole organization instead of the statements you make.
Yeah. Just like the depth of your leadership depends on the kind of questions you ask yourself.
Totally.
It's very important. So I tell you what, if you're watching this and if you're a leader of an organization, head of a ministry, you know what? This is very important stuff. So what kind of questions can you ask? What are the values that you could reinforce with your people over and over again? As my father-in-law, Richard Crisco, says, unless you feel like a broken record, you're probably not doing your job. So, but anyway, we'd just like to say thank you so much for watching this video. Shane, thank you for being here.
Very welcome, man.
It's been, I'll tell you what, if you can't find value in this, I don't know who you are personally. And so, hey, you know what? Check out empoweringkingdomleaders.com. You can check out our brand new website and also check out the Kingdom Resource Center, where you'll be able to find Shane Willard's resources right on our website right there. And actually, the sale of your product goes to help your nonprofit ministries of helping the orphans, sex trafficked ladies, and other areas as well.
We have 3 orphanages we support in China, 2 in Hinyang, 1 in Changsha. We also have an orphanage in Escort and an orphanage in Marmalodi we support, and we have a ministry in Cape Town that doesn't have anything to do with orphanages. It is actually it's been given PBO status by the Department of Justice in South Africa to help gang members, criminals, and now, new this year, prostitutes who have been forced into sex trafficking to help give them a high school equivalency education, get them off drugs, and get them job trained, so we could try to break the cycle of poverty in the Cape Town flats and abroad. And so 100% of our profit from our resources goes to fund those sorts of things. And it's just a great thing, because what else are we going to do? Sit around and wait to go to heaven when we die?
Absolutely.
No, we want to bring heaven here.
Absolutely. So I encourage you, go check out the website again, empoweringkingdomleaders.com. And you know what? I tell you what, be a blessing to Shane, but also be a blessing to the people that his organization is ministering to. Thank you so much for joining us today. Thank you, and we'll see you next time.